Hello and welcome back everyone, I am the Otaku, and today we are taking a look at the Star Wars Battlefront Death Star DLC, as well as the accompanying patch. As always, I will be going over all the new content, giving you my thoughts and some analysis along the way. Then we're going to dig into the patch notes to let you guys know what's new, what's changed, and what to expect in your upcoming gameplay experiences. So without further ado, let's get to it. The Death Star DLC includes 5 maps, 2 heroes, 2 blasters, 2 star cards, 2 hero vehicles, and 1 new game mode. It will also see the level cap raised from 70 to 90, as well as the addition of 4 new player outfits, a revamped player customization section, the removal of helmetless stormtroopers, and some new vehicle power-ups, all free and available to every player. Then just like all the previous DLC, this new content is only playable through the Death Star DLC playlist from the main menu. The 5 new maps are Imperial Blockade, Defense Sector, Power Sector, Command Sector, and the Death Star Surface. The Imperial Blockade is in space, where you'll fight amongst the, you guessed it, Imperial Blockade. Defense Sector, Power Sector, and Command Sector are all different sectors of the Death Star. They look and feel so similar that you might not even realize you are playing on different maps until you go to make a video about it. The Death Star Surface is on the outside of the Death Star, with trench warfare, accidental collisions, and turbo lasers that have literally the worst aim ever. The new maps for the Death Star DLC are only playable on 3 game modes: Blast, Fighter Squadron, and the new Battle Station. Battle Station is a 3-phase game mode, with each phase being in a different location and having its own objectives. The first phase is called the Diversion, and has both teams battling in space, with the Rebels trying to get past the Imperial Blockade by defeating a Star Destroyer. For Rebels to complete their objective, they must kill waves of Imperial fighters, making the main Star Destroyer vulnerable and susceptible to your attacks. After clearing multiple waves and eventually destroying 4 sections, the Imperial Star Destroyer is defeated and you can move on to Phase 2. Failure to complete this objective means losing the game and not moving on to Phase 2. Phase 2 is called the Rescue, where the Rebels infiltrate and assault the Death Star in an attempt to rescue R2-D2. To complete this objective, the Rebels must make their way to R2-D2 and then escort him back to the Rebel ship. R2-D2 is fully controllable and comes with 3 support-based abilities to assist with this endeavor. During the phase, hero tokens are available to each team, although they can be somewhat difficult to reach if your team is being pushed back. Once again, failure to rescue R2-D2 in the allotted time will mean losing the match and not going on to Phase 3. Phase 3 is called the Trench Run, and brings us back into space, this time fighting on the outer walls and within the trenches of the Death Star itself, with the objective for Rebels being to complete the Trench Run and blow up the Death Star. To complete the objective, Rebels will be assigned as trench runners and must make their way through the checkpoints to complete the full trench run. Failure to do so means losing the game and you having to cope with the fact that the Death Star probably goes on a planet-destroying rampage. Death Star introduces 2 new heroes to the game, Bossk and Chewbacca. Bossk was a male Trandoshan bounty hunter that would use his natural instincts to capture his prey. Mentor to Boba Fett and being highly skilled at killing Wookiees, he was one of the most feared bounty hunters in the galaxy. Bossk comes equipped with his classic Relby V10 and has regeneration as his trait to regenerate health. His abilities are Micro Grenade, where each shot will fire a micro explosive that detonates after a short time or coming into contact with an enemy. Predatory Instincts gives Bossk heat vision, faster cooldowns, and increased damage and increased speed. It's important to note that this ability does not have any cooldown and instead is toggled on and off. However, when active, Bossk is super sensitive to light, so flashbangs can really mess you up. And then Toxic Escape, where upon activation, Bossk will leap into the air in the direction he was moving and drop a more potent version of the Dioxis grenade on the spot that he was standing. Overall, Bosk's abilities are competitive and fun, giving you a unique spin on some existing weapons and mechanics. However, his health regen from his trait is rather weak, and the Relby is the Relby, which means it sucks, so engaging with other heroes, honor guards, or multiple infantry using the Relby alone is ill-advised and should be avoided if possible. Instead, to get the most out of Bossk, make your way over to team fights where your micro grenades and natural instinct combination can quickly clear an entire enemy team while keeping you topped up on health. Then, you can use your Toxic Escape to quickly make your way back out of there, or as an oh shit button if things didn't go quite as planned when you made your way in. Chewbacca, also known as Chewie, was a legendary Wookiee warrior, smuggler, resistance fighter, and co-pilot aboard the Millennium Falcon. Known for his short temper, accuracy with the bowcaster, and loyalty to his friends, he has stuck with Han Solo through years of turmoil and been a direct influence on the galaxy and their lives. Chewie comes with his most iconic weapon, the bowcaster, and Furious Fighting trait, which increases the amount of bolts he can fire from the bowcaster. His abilities are multi-bolts, which doubles the amount of bolts fired from his bowcaster when activated. Mighty Roar, where Chewbacca will roar, empowering himself and allies, giving infantry soldiers Berserker trait rank 3 and increased armor for a limited time, while also giving himself and other heroes increased armor. And then Ground Slam, where Chewbacca slams the ground, damaging and pushing back enemies in the area around the point of impact. It's important to know that this can be used from the air, so jumping in and using a Ground Slam is a great strategy. Overall, Chewbacca is an interesting mix to the current heroes, giving the Rebel team a very tanky character that they were severely lacking. However, due to his large hitbox, slow movement speed, only shooting one bolt to start, as well as the very extreme delays after activating each ability, Chewbacca feels especially vulnerable at all times and is often dead before actually making much of an impact. So for now, I would avoid leading the charge and instead push in after your team, where you can actually go in and use some abilities without it being a guaranteed death sentence. The two new blasters for this DLC are the TL-50 Heavy Repeater and the K-16 Briar Pistol, unlockable via hut contracts. What's so interesting and unique about these blasters is that their zoom mechanics have been replaced with alternate fire modes, giving you some options in terms of how they can be used. It works like this: when holding down the zoom button, the weapon will start charging. Once it's ready, press the fire button and it will deliver its destructive blast. Firing the secondary fire will also immediately overheat the weapon, and it must be cooled before you can charge up another blast or shoot regularly. The TL-50 Heavy Repeater is a technological achievement and testament of the might of the Galactic Empire. It has the highest fully automatic rate of fire in the game, solid damage drop-off at a distance, and devastating concussion blasts as your alternate fire. The Heavy Repeater is faster to charge in comparison to the Briar Pistol, but the concussion round moves slower and in an arc trajectory. The K-16, on the other hand, represents the Rebellion and the clever tricks they use to take on the Empire. Its primary fire mode is not as powerful as other blasters, but its secondary fire mode is capable of killing soldiers in one hit. Just be careful when using the secondary fire modes, as you do walk slower and cannot fire them until they are fully charged. Based on my testing thus far, as well as the stats, the TL-50 is literally just a DLT-19 that trades 2 initial damage for 100 more RPM and sacrifices its aiming down sight capabilities for the alternate fire. It's a fairly decent weapon, performing well enough between 15 to 30 meters to not lose out every single gunfight, while also giving you the option of its alternate fire for situations where its primary one doesn't necessarily perform best. You might also notice on the chart here that the time to kill at longer distances is really good, but as we know from the DLT-19 and Dengar videos, shooting at this distance just isn't viable due to the horizontal recoil and huge base spread values making the weapon super inaccurate. The K-16, on the other hand, is a total piece of junk, having literally the worst time to kill in the game at any distance by a fairly big margin. The single and only use of this weapon is to pre-charge your alternate fire while abusing third-person view to camp corners. In other words, EA DICE literally released a blaster where its core gameplay mechanic and intended use is getting cheap kills and pissing people off. Perfect. The two new star cards are the Laser Trip Mine and the Medical Droid. The Laser Trip Mine can be attached to any surface and will explode when an enemy passes by. It will also scramble the radar of enemies that get too close to it. When using it, try to place it at the bottom of a doorway and not in the middle where you can easily see the glowing beam coming from it. The Medical Droid is a stationary droid that is placed by the player. The droid will send out a healing pulse every 3 seconds and reduce the cooldown for players' star cards that are standing nearby. This is pretty much the new team fight alternative to the back-to-bomb, good for team fights and defending objectives. Just be sure to place it down preemptively and not when you're at 10 health and half your team is already dead. Two of the most iconic starfighters from the Star Wars trilogy are now yours to command, with the addition of Darth Vader's TIE Advanced X-1 and Luke Skywalker's Red 5 X-Wing. Both of these hero vehicles come with their respective wingmen. The Rebel pilots Wedge Antilles Red 2 and Biggs Darklighter Red 3 will support Luke Skywalker just like in the movies, while Victor 2 and Victor 3 are there, two Imperial aces that will join Darth Vader. Similar to how Honor Guard's abilities of Princess Leia and Emperor Palpatine work, the Wingman will be a spawn option for 2 players from each side as long as Red 5 or the TIE Advanced X1 are present on the battlefront. Luke's Red 5 abilities are Shields, which prevents the vehicle from taking damage for a short duration or until the shields are depleted. Proton Torpedoes, that are missiles that track down enemy targets, and the R2-D2 Repair Unit, which will heal a set amount of health. I found that Red 5 is actually pretty weak overall, being too slow and vulnerable all the time. You will be spamming that shield and R2-D2 heals just to stay alive for more than a few seconds, while also requiring very long lock-on times for the torpedoes to hit anyone. Even then, they can just maneuver and get away from it. Vader's TIE Advanced abilities are Shields that prevent the vehicle from taking damage for a short time or until they're depleted, Speed Boost, which will allow the vehicle to briefly fly faster, and then Relentless Assault, which will allow the player to fire the main weapon more rapidly, dealing more damage and not overheating. So Vader's TIE Advanced is an absolute monstrosity, having much better synergy between its abilities. You can go fast when you need to, mobile, pop your shield when slowing down to shoot people, and use Relentless Assault preemptively before engaging, so you dish out huge damage as soon as you lock on, and not have to stay locked on for a long time, waiting for some silly torpedo to hit them. As it stands now, most hero vehicles are actually pretty garbage and literally not even worth getting. Vader's TIE Advanced is that one exception and really feels like a hero vehicle should. Powerful, imposing, and scary as hell when it's active on the battlefront. I couldn't be more pleased with how great it feels to play as Vader in space combat. There are 4 new vehicle pickups free to all players and available on all maps of Fighter Squadron and the new Battle Station game mode. These power-ups will call in friendly AI units that will follow your starfighter around while assisting in taking out your enemies. The power-ups are faction-specific and will call in the following vehicles: B-Wings and Y-Wings for the Rebels, and TIE Bombers or TIE Defenders for the Imperials. These pickups are currently extremely overpowered, having aimbot-like capabilities and 1 or 2 shotting players from across the map, including hero vehicles. This is pretty game-breaking right now and a major cause of headache for myself and other players in the flying content, which is pretty much all of the Death Star DLC. I literally went 23-2 in Fighter Squadron by picking these up and casually flying around the map, only killing just a few players myself. I also see other players all the time getting 30 and 40 kills and 0 deaths by doing the exact same strategy, which requires absolutely no skill. So I'm sure this should be top priority right now, and hopefully it'll be fixed soon. Otherwise, I'm going to throw my PlayStation out the window so hard that it randomly flies across the world with an aimbot and drops onto whatever DICE employee's head decided that it would be okay to not test this shit. Overall, I have pretty mixed feelings about the new content. The Death Star experience is fantastic, and I think we all agree that what we did get, they did a really good job on. However, that doesn't excuse the lack of game modes and infantry-focused gameplay, as well as not having heroes versus villains for the 2nd expansion in a row. So at first, the content is breathtaking, nostalgic, and it's exhilarating to do the trench run. But once the fanboyism wears off and you get sick of flying, then there just really isn't much else to it. Okay, so now that we have covered all the new content, it's time to go through the patch notes and discuss some of the more important changes made to the game. As always, I'll be putting a link in the description below for the official patch notes, so feel free to go check those out yourself, or don't, I don't really care. Just keep in mind that this is a little bit of an informal reading from myself, mostly for me to be able to just complain about stuff. If you don't want to listen to that, you don't have to, it's okay. But let's go ahead and get started. Weapons and star cards. The Back-to-Bomb is seeing some changes. It has its cooldown changed to 10 seconds. There is a 4-second healing immunity from the Back-to-Bomb after you've already been healed. They resolved a bug in which you wouldn't get healed, okay, and updated the logic for triggering the healing effects. So this is the important part. Players that are hit from the Back-to-Bomb will get healed 5 health periodically over time, going up to 30 health. If a player takes damage during this time, all the healing ticks are cancelled. So essentially you can use the Back-to-Bomb once, and then you have to wait a few seconds being able to get healed again from it. This is to solve the problem of people standing in Back-to-Bomb clouds or getting chain healed to full over and over while under attack. The secondary change, like I said, is the important one, is that you no longer go right, boom, 130. You can heal from full to get 30 extra health over a period of time that ticks up, or you can heal from low health to full, so no more instant 130s every time you drop it. Okay, moving on to traits. Players can now equip a trait card on each of their hand, meaning you can bring 2 different traits into the Battlefront on each loadout. In addition, all traits have been updated and most of their levels have new abilities. So let's go through those. Bodyguard now reduces all damage taken instead of just explosive damage, going from 10 to 25 then 50%. Bounty Hunter no longer gives power-ups on kill and instead gives faster card cooldowns in general, so not on each kill, going from 15 then to 30 then to 50%. Now Berserker trait no longer gives increased damage when hurt or bonus armor value at later levels. Instead, it gives a base damage to your blaster when hip firing, and that's important to note, it's only when you are hip firing, going from 15% to 30 and then 50%. Now, Sharpshooter on the other hand no longer has anything to do with headshots, instead it gives a base damage like Berserker trait, but only when aiming down sight. So if you like the damage bonus from Berserker, but you like to aim down sight more, then Sharpshooter is for you, going from 15 to 30 then 50% bonus damage. Escape's Artist has also been changed, no longer giving the one-shot melee strikes, which was a broken system to begin with. Instead, it just gives you base speed increase from a lower rate, going from 5 to 15 then 30%. Now a big change is Scout trait. This one's a little bit tricky. They switched around rank 1 and 2 trait bonuses, so you no longer show on radar when shooting at first and then sprinting at rank 2, and then rank 3 is completely changed. So it no longer resets the heat on your weapon when you get a kill at rank 3, and instead will just scramble enemy radars, effectively giving away your position, which is completely counterintuitive to using Scout trait. So that's always fun. Survivalist now regens health faster by seconds and not percentages, and doesn't actually give you health for each kill in rank 3 anymore. So it goes from 6 seconds to regenerate health, then 4, then 2. So at level 3 that could be pretty cool. Jumping out of combat for 2 seconds should be pretty easy to heal up. It's almost like the same amount of time it would take to even use a back-to-bomb. So if you're good at moving around or positioned behind cover more often than not, Survivalist would be a very good alternative to always keeping heal star cards with you. So overall, I'm pretty happy with all these changes. I think they really help define each trait, and we're going to be seeing a lot more trait diversity as well as interesting loadouts because of the new traits. Like I said, with Survivalist, you might not need to keep a back-to-bomb or Adrenaline Rush with you anymore. Now, a few things that bother me though are Bodyguards and Escape Artists rank 1 values starting off lower, and the wishy-washy kind of values for each trait. I don't think that there's any reason that Berserker or Sharpshooter should give 15% bonus damage at rank 1 trait, but Bodyguard only gives a 10% defense bonus at rank 1. I think that they should effectively counter each other out, or Berserker is just kind of a clear victor. Also, Escape Artist, the 5% speed bonus is pretty negligible at rank 1. You might as well not even have any bonus at all. That's hardly going to help you in very many situations, and it's kind of silly. The changes that piss me off the most though are the Scout trait changes. I think they're pretty obnoxious. It makes it difficult to use compared to the other traits now. Being able to shoot off radar at rank 1 but not sprint is just going to promote very campy gameplay instead of mobile flanking tactics, or it's going to make those flanking tactics much more difficult than they should be, which isn't very fair, especially since having rank 3 screws with radars and literally gives away your position. So you might not show on the radar, but the radar is messed up so they know, oh, there's someone with Scout trait nearby, let's just not play stupidly. So you might as well just be on the radar anyway, it's just stupid. They should remove that. Instead, I think they should go back, revert those changes from Scout trait, leaving them the way they were before. Then, rank 3 should just give immunity to scan pulse. That would be awesome, because all your hard work getting up to rank 3 is easily countered by someone simply activating a star card, which is not something that any other trait is countered by. It doesn't seem very fair at all. In my opinion, Scout trait was already balanced and didn't need these changes. This is definitely a bit of a nerf, and they said that the reasoning behind it was because 80% of players were using it, but the reason for that wasn't because Scout was overpowered, it was because the other options sucked. Now that isn't the case. Other traits are better and more defined, and people are going to be going, oh, I want to use this for my playstyle. So I think double dipping there and changing both wasn't necessary. You could change one and it's balanced, But if you change one and then nerf the other, now you have another imbalance. And that's a perfect example of how horrible DICE is at balancing things. P.S. I hate you balancing people at DICE. So moving on to heroes now. Vader, regular soldiers that are under the effect of Force Choke will not be able to melee attack. Makes sense. I don't think you'd be able to do anything but choke. A well-needed change. Leia's Trooper Bane cooldown is being increased by 1 second from 14 to 15, but her base blaster damage from her E11 was increased from 50 to 53. That'll give her a little bit more initial hero damage. It won't really increase the shots per kill on infantry, but the end damage was increased from 25 to 35, so that's pretty cool. That'll definitely give her more damage at distance, and the fall-off distance of her weapon was changed from 25 to 30. So overall, that's going to make Leia a bit more competitive and not just a health disposal unit, which is kind of how she acts now. Her hero versus hero damage was a bit weak and unable to compete with a lot of the villains, especially Vader. He has so much health that nobody can compete with him. He's just a monster. But now she should be able to dish it out and play a bigger damaging role as part of the team. After that, Palpatine, they increased the base lightning damage of his attack from 15 to 18 and his block time by 60%. This one is a bit confusing for me. I remember in the Bespin update, Palpatine had his lightning damage increased from 20 to 22. Now his lightning damage is increased from 15 to 18. That doesn't make any sense. I don't recall any point in time in between these two patches where his damage was decreased. Trust me, I went through all the notes and I didn't see it, so I don't know how this is possible. Now you might say that when they refer to his lightning from the Bespin patch, where they initially said they increased it, could be referring to his lightning ability and not his sustained attack. But the other 2 points that were changed during that Bespin patch notes also refer to lightning. Like they say the lightning sustainability and recharge time as 2 other notes for things that they changed. But they don't say lightning ability stuff, so it doesn't make sense to me. One would assume that all 3 referred to just as lightning are his regular ability, and not his actual ability, just his base attack, not his actual ability. So some clarification on that matter would be nice. If anyone knows what the deal is with this or wants to test it and let me know, feel free to do that. Leave a comment in the description below. That is all the important patch notes changes for today. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or even donate to support the channel. I'll see you guys next time, but until then, as always, may the Otaku be with you.